Thomas. Thomas.
Thomas isn't here right now, Mr. Van Leuven. Let's get on topic. Hey everybody, it's Thomas with Get Out Arizona, and you're watching another episode of Toolbox Topic. And today, I guarantee you, we won't hunt you down in a hedge maze during a blizzard with an axe. I'm here with my co-host Brandon Van Leuven. Brandon, how the hell are you?
Chill.
You chill? As always. Really, dude, it's the opiates he's got in his system, ladies and gentlemen. So today, we are going to be talking about front suspension, maintenance of front suspension, care. Front suspension, adjustability of front suspension, why you don't want a limp Peter 40 millimeters of travel when you can have 160 millimeters of travel. No, definitely it's going to be one of those things where the right suspension for the right bike is going to pay dividends on the comfortability of your ride for sure. So let's start out with your typical front suspension, Brandon.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got this right here, and this is pretty much the standard issue build.
To be quite honest with you, this is kind of an old fork.
Right, it is. It's all we can come up with today.
It's a Fox Talus. It was a very cool fork at the time. It was a very complex fork for its time as well. It has a multiple travel adjustability to it, which was super cool, but also had quite a bit of problems. So they no longer make an adjustable travel one.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic example for us to see, just what a fork looks like off the bike and to use as a prop for today.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and highlight some of the main functions. Obviously, you have this goes through the top tube of the bike. Here's where you're going to have your air. Here's where the adjustability would. Correct. Here's your stanchion. And then you have the lower support down here with a bridge.
Correct.
Now, remember some of the earlier forks.
The upper assembly or the steer crown with the
okay.
crown.
Now, some of you guys, way back in the day, I had a Marzocchi 400 XC was the first shock I had on my Trek 7000. Did not have a bridge. You had to buy that separately.
That's weak.
It is weak. It's a hell of a good fork, but that was weak. So, but this is, a standard issue for all forks today. And some forks, I know with RockShox, they are pre-drilled for fenders now on the bridge, in case you want to be one of those, dorks that puts people don't like mud in their face, so I get it. I would never put a fender on my bike. So you're also talking to someone who's, carbon king over here. So in the design itself, though, hasn't necessarily changed. It's only improved over the last, almost 3 decades they've been doing front suspension.
And that's fair to say.
Yeah. And before, you only would see these on mountain bikes, although Greg LeMond was the first person to ride a custom-built front suspension shock by Fox in the Paris-Roubaix when he was still riding the Tour de France. Caused quite the uproar because the rules technically said it was allowed, but you're kind of missing the spirit of that ride.
That's a good tidbit.
Right, I'm just saying, a little bit of history, and of course it'll date me even more. But now we see front suspension on bike packing bikes, gravel bikes, a variety of bikes where that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Even comfort bikes, just comfort cruisers, we'll see them on in some cases as well.
Yeah.
E-bikes, not necessarily the mountain e-bikes, but just regular commuting e-bikes.
Yeah.
We'll have them. It's all about keeping the bike under control.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I've gone over the bars a couple times with pre-front suspension, and not so much now these days, ladies and gentlemen, but it still does happen. Okay, so we've got the basics out of the way as far as the fork. What are some of the things that people should be made aware of as far as the care, not only preventative maintenance, but regular maintenance where they might take it into the bike shop? What goes into caring for this piece of engineering?
Yeah, well, first of all, every suspension fork has its own predetermined service interval. And no matter what fork you have, I'd highly recommend that anybody go just look it up on the Fox website, the RockShox, or excuse me, the SRAM website to see what their service interval is. Fox, I believe, now has just a once a year for preventative maintenance.
Right.
RockShox, you're going to see an hourly maintenance interval, and you should stick to that.
Yeah.
Because the internals are they're delicate inside there, and they require fresh
Right.
Fresh parts and fresh fluids.
Absolutely.
For example, I have these guys. This is just an example outside of the fork. These are the foam rings that provide lubrication to the stanchions, and these are the seals that keep all the crap out.
Right.
You know, within a year or within this normal service interval, these things get dried out. They get cracked, and they start letting the dirt in, and things get bad pretty quickly.
Right.
On these guys.
Or you could just have it snap the day after Christmas, the insides, and you got to, ride a couple miles back to your vehicle.
Miracle.
A gift that kept on giving for 3
right.
weeks. So,
But definitely the service is a big deal, and I do get a lot of questions from a lot of customers. I want to do this at home. Can I do this? And absolutely, you can do that. It's not that big of a deal to do this stuff at home. It's just a matter of having the right tools for the job,
right,
and knowing exactly the right pieces that you need to complete the service. As you notice here, I have a number of different fluids: 5-weight, 20-weight, 15-weight.
Well, let's bring some of those in the camera.
And every fork is just a little bit different. I got different,
can see this.
10 red. I got 5-weight. What is this thing? 1.5 or something like that.
Right.
We have to get the right
and so
weights for the job.
This is a synthetic.
Yeah.
This is so. I remember my first vehicle. Synthetic oil, again, dating myself, didn't exist. You basically went on weight, and my first vehicle was a diesel, so it was a different weight than a conventional vehicle. Sure. And changing that fluid because it was a diesel was more often than not. So similar with a front suspension, different choices, different weights, and different maintenance intervals.
And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe
we're quoting
it
you on
has to
this.
do with the
quote them on this, guys.
With the type of valving that you have inside for your dampener.
Okay.
What kind of weights that you want to use for that.
Okay. Well, and that makes sense. That definitely makes sense.
The dampeners have different size holes in them and such. So.
Okay.
And not only is the
ooh, what's this? It's blue.
And that's float fluid. That's the stuff that
float fluid.
Yep, that's the stuff we soak the
I think I saw a movie called Float Fluid last. Oh wait, we'll talk about that. So we'll get to what this actually is. Well, what is this? Now I'm all intrigued.
All right. Well, we're talking about something else. So the float fluid we use in a certain parts for lubrication, but also to soak these foam rings in before the assembly begins.
Okay.
And these guys help lubricate the stanchions.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
All right. So some of the tools.
Some specific tools we have for this job. And once again, if you do this at home, you can definitely do it at home without these tools, but these are the correct tools. And these are just a sample of the correct tools. This is the right thing so you don't smash parts while you're separating the bushings inside. This is for setting the foam rings, not the foam rings, but the rubber dust seals, non-chamfered sockets so you don't mar up the tops of the forks. Certain things like that. Don't really need them, but you really should use them. This is the pro way to do it.
Right.
This is
and then obviously we have here a pump to adjust the air pressure.
Right. If you are so lucky to have a air adjustable front suspension fork, yeah.
Right. And the adjustment is actually fairly crucial. You want to adjust that based on the rider's weight, so it travels properly. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So.
And we can use the recommendations also from manufacturers' websites, but really the best way to go is set the sag level. You can have a friend help you with that, and there's also some great
sag level.
Some great demonstrations of that on the internet as well.
I bet there is.
Man.
Remember, guys, it's a family show.
Trying to be serious.
It's a family show. Okay.
But really, the beauty of air adjustability, it's infinite. You can set it to what they recommend, but after that, you like it a little bit firmer, you like it a little softer.
It's a blue pill.
Everything's a setup here.
Everything is.
You can adjust with air.
So you can see, there are maintenance items on a bike that are more complex, definitely more simple, but you can see if you were going to attempt some of these services at home, what you're going to need. This isn't just, hey, I'm going to fiddle fart around with this.
Right.
You can damage your fork.
Absolutely.
You can put it back together incorrectly and then have a catastrophic failure out on the trail. And then you got to buy a new fork. And
in some cases,
they ain't cheap. $800 to $900, $1,000 for some of the more high-end forks out there. Now, we'll move over to the bike now because there were some things that I definitely wanted to talk about as far as on the bike goes, geometry and everything, and how that also affects. So you get a fork. Most mountain bikes come with a fork these days, but if you're going to upgrade swap out, change anything. There are some things that you definitely need to know as far as that goes. So let's get a little bit centered up over here on the bike, and we'll talk about front suspension a little bit more. Okay, guys, so now we're, this is obviously the front end of a bike, and for all intents and purposes, they're all the same. With the exception of geometry, is it an enduro, XC, downhill bike type thing? You got the front tube here, you get the two parts of the frame going down. No one's reinventing the wheel, no pun intended. Now, geometry, though, of your frame can dictate on the style of fork you can purchase. And I've run into this problem looking for a front suspension for my Truck 920. It's not that there aren't forks out there that will work for it, it's because the geometry of the frame itself is prohibitive.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, the bike was designed by very smart people to work together, the frame geometry with a certain travel or a certain offset fork. Yep.
Right. So more than likely what I'll end up doing is just getting a carbon fork to try to relieve some of that low frequency vibration on it, unless I get a custom fork made, which isn't going to happen. There's other things I'll spend my money on. Now, what are some of the problems for someone who's maybe not inexperienced and they just order a fork and they try to slam it in the front end of their bike? What problems can that cause out on the trail? It may work, but it's not really working.
Typically, if you buy the wrong fork, it's not going to work on your bike.
Okay.
There's so many things we got to be concerned about. It's the first thing, starting from the top, we need to worry, is your head tube a straight head tube or is it a tapered head tube?
Right.
That's going to make a difference in the fork you select. The fork crown offset is going to make a difference.
Right.
As crucial, but it should be done correctly. And then also the interface with the hubs that you currently run.
Right.
Is a through axle, is a quick release. Is a 15 millimeters, a 20 millimeter through axle, 20 millimeter through axle. All those things should be taken into account.
And your wheel set too. Sometimes forks are not compatible with certain wheel sets.
Exactly.
So,
so 27.5, 29.
I didn't realize front suspension was so damn complex, Thomas. I say we drag up for this joint, go get some hookers and blow. Calm down. Right? Once again, folks, you may not learn anything, but this is entertainment. You can't get any. I'm surprised we haven't been picked up by Fox or NBC. At least the WB, because the WB will put any piece of shit on their fucking channel. So, anyways, I digress.
Compatibility. Have somebody that has a good experience with this. Pick you out the right fork.
Right.
For this. We have had customers that go with a little bit longer. They're just looking for a little more suspension travel on their bike. You can do it. I feel like maybe no more than 10 millimeters difference in the suspension travel.
Okay.
Could be okay, but I try to talk everybody, just get what the bike was
designed for.
It's really going to run the best that way.
Gotcha. So now, what are some of the things, because just like, pretty much all items on the bike, you can see the wear start to develop, or you can see when it's having issues if you're doing normal, regular maintenance and everything. What are some of the things that riders should be looking for on the fork itself to say, hey, this needs help and help soon?
So the preventative part that we can all do at home, two very basic things. Have one of these guys, just a clean rag. I always refer back to
Brandon and his shop rags. And you know what, guys? This time I will actually put a link to shop rags from Amazon down below. We don't get paid for it. It's not an affiliate link or anything. But that way you can buy shop rags in bulk. I do it, and Brandon is correct. Having a good supply of shop rags is always a good thing.
For what we can do at home, our conditions, other conditions, we want to keep the stanchions as clean as possible.
Okay.
The rubber rings here do a great job of keeping it clean, but really all that really fine stuff in the desert, that real fine dust, it's going to get in there. So before and after your ride, just keep these guys clean. Just wipe it with a dry rag is really the most thing we can do. I go in there and I floss the inside there to make sure it's as clean as possible. Look at this guy.
You think he friggin' shine shoes. Go get your shine box.
The other thing we can do besides keeping the stanchions clean and keeping them in best repair as possible, there's nothing you can do when you crash, but really when you thrash these things, it's really detrimental.
Well, and let me grab this really quick because this is a really good example. And hopefully, we'll zoom in a little bit on it later, but you can see the amount of wear on this
fork was
stanchion.
probably never serviced.
Right.
And it was Yeah, it was never serviced and it was abused. So.
Yeah. Oh, and to that end, I mean, guys, just like anything on the bike, it's an investment, so you want to protect that investment. So here's a really good example of what's going to happen if you don't protect your investment. So
for sure.
All right. So what are some of the other things?
Yeah, well, one last thing we can do before you go ride, the fluids in here are pretty much pulled at the bottom until you start moving the
Right.
internal parts. What you also could do before your ride, while you're getting ready, putting your helmet on, putting your shoes on, you can either do that or flip the bike upside down.
I
Just
like
for a couple
shaking
minutes.
the shit out of them much better here. Don't let me down today.
It'll definitely be much easier on the components because the foam rings and the seals will be dry.
Okay.
Flip it upside down, allow that stuff to go penetrate, soak into the top portion of the fork. It only takes a couple minutes, and you can do that while you're getting ready. What I would do is probably get something to protect the tops because you got nice stuff.
Yeah.
To protect your saddle, protect the top of the.
Again, why bother with flipping it over, guys? Just squeeze your crap out of it.
So those two things keep you on topic.
Right. Why did you steal my roles, Kevin Spacey? No, just joking. The movie references are abound today. So, all right. Well, that's a lot of great information, and I don't think it was too much information for you guys today. We've definitely covered,
There's a lot more,
a variety.
That's a good start.
It's definitely a good start. So remember, if you plan, and there's nothing wrong, we do these videos so you guys can be informed and you can do some of this maintenance at your home. There's also a variety of other YouTube videos. I'm not going to lie, we're not the only kids on the block that are going to dive definitely deeper. Manufacturers, Fox and RockShox both have their own YouTube channels that really dive into the minutia of servicing and maintaining your front suspension. So those are also good to check out. And I will actually put the links down below to both those in case you have components made by either company. It's good to hear it straight from the manufacturer's mouth as far as that goes. So, and one more quick note, I had someone reach out to me say that I was inaccurate saying technology when it comes to technology and how it's changed and made biking, whether it's road, mountain bike, gravel biking now, for the better. And they said I was using the word improperly. So engineering could be used in lieu of technology, but I think it's the technology that makes it the new engineering possible. So grammatically, I don't feel I'm incorrect. So go kiss my ass. No, I'm joking, guys. Seriously, I try to be as accurate as possible. But yes, when we're talking about mechanical, engineering probably would be more palatable a word to use. But technology is also correct in this circumstance. Don't try to one-up me, suckers. I'll come out on top on that way. Anyways, okay, that's my last rant for the video. Brandon, is there anything that we can add to this before we cut these people loose?
For this segment, I think we've covered quite a bit. I think we're good.
12 to 15 minute debt of servitude. So anyways, guys, if you got something out of this video, whether it was educational or whether you just had a good laugh, and once again at our expense, well, his expense, not my expense, hit the like button, okay? And then go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. And be sure to hit the ding-a-ling-a-ling notification button so that way, whenever we post a new video, whether it's one of our trail videos or one of the toolbox topics, you can go ahead and be one of the first people to watch it and comment. We want to hear from you. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Other things that you'd like to see us promote on Toolbox Topics. So there you have it, guys. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today and once again putting up with my shenanigans.
It was fun.
It always is. He has no choice at this point, guys. None at all.
Indeed,
So, yeah. So, on that note, guys, remember what I always say. There's links down below for you to follow. One for Trek. So if you have any further questions, you can reach out to these guys. There's going to be links to the various items that we've showed today. They are not sponsored leaks. We don't get anything if you follow those links. They're just for additional edification. Be kind to yourself and others. Always be great stewards on the trail. And we got to ask, what are you waiting for? Get out, Arizona. Guys, we'll see you on the next adventure. Brandon, thank you so much again for joining us.
We'll see you next week.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Take care, guys.
Bye.